And now here I'm preparing. Here's how we prepare the bulletin, which goes on air or reports. So you go through it here. First of all, you have to sit to find a stable position of sitting so that you're comfortable, and after which now you start airing. Because over there you'll have your sound staff or an engineer or a technician on duty to help you. You can't do things alone naturally here. So ours is talking, we prepare the discussion and all this. Then next you have a guest seated there, and on the other cubicle you have the technician or the sound staff. So another group of people are those who are listening to us there. So whatever we are doing here, you must be mindful of those group of people. You have visitor, the sound staff, and the final consumer of your products outside the broadcasting house or the broadcasting room. Yeah. Because the person talking sits here, and then the other side is the sound staff office. The technician sits there side for you, and your guest you sit on this end. But of course, newsrooms have different setups. This UBC, this is our setup here, but there are different setups according to the situation on the ground and the different formats. Okay. Yeah, this one is our UBC format. There's 2 rooms. One room is for the on-air person. Another room is for the technician. Okay. Yeah. Oh. No, the other end, but around this end, we called and recorded for 30 minutes.
Joseph Konyi?
Yes.
His assistant?
He himself, Konyi, called.
Why?
He wanted to air something.
Oh.
It was Oti, David Oti, who called and said, "Are you Bagum?" I said, "Yes, I am." Then he said, "You are called, Commander 1 wants to talk to you." Then he said, "Which commander?" I say, "Oti." I mean, Konyi.
Jesus Christ.
So
you gave him the air?
I communicated with the other agencies, and then they gave me a go ahead. They said, "Then fine." There, I said, "Record him and we give us a statement."
You are in this exact place?
So he called, yes, he called here, and then we engaged him on 101 for 30 minutes. I was interviewing him, question answer. He claimed then that he was in Kitgum. I don't know where he was, but he said he was in Kitgum at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very, very
So we have that recording.
That is very
Joseph Konyi called to explain his side of why he was fighting.
I was going to ask that, but I didn't think it is okay for you.
No.
So he gave you all the information of why he fought and
why he was fighting. So many things he was asking, and he was speaking so fast. He was mixing law and English.
And
He
you
speaks so fast.
law?
No, his English is good. Generally, he has some average good English. He could understand.
Okay.
Yes, he said, because it's the OT who called. He said, "Are you Henry Baguma of Radio Uganda?" I say, "Yes." So Commander 1 wants to talk to you.
Wow.
Yes, so
he gave you all the details of his side.
Get him of a few things, and why are you fighting? You are a killer. I say, "I'm not a killer. For us, we're defending our people. We're being also pursued by other groups of people," and so many other things he said, but the materials, we have that recording.
Were you the only journalist that he came to?
I don't know, we may have engaged other people, but at least for me, he called me as an individual.
Wow.
Yes. And then after that, many questions, people are asking me many questions. The minister, the what, how do you get Konyi? How do you get your number? How are you contact? Yeah, so many questions.
But do you still know the answer to that? How he got your number?
But we are working in public places and we are public figures. So our numbers are public numbers, naturally, and many people have have our numbers. They can also have numbers for other people who will be surprised if you call them anyway. Yes, many people will call and say, "How do you get my number?" You see. Now, Konyi being a leader of a rebel group, or such a group, and for long he's fighting, naturally, he must be having numbers of certain personalities. And media is one of their targets, because they want to advance their cause while they are fighting. Yes. So I would imagine all rebels normally have numbers of certain people for strategic reasons. Yeah. So he's not a personal friend. I'm not to meet him face to face, but he must have got the number from someone.
But for security
because our numbers are public numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but not for rebels. I mean, if a rebel called me today, I would be surprised.
You'd be surprised, but naturally, by the time he's rebel, it means he's fighting certain people, certain group, and therefore, because of that, he must also find out what is the other side.
So what reasons did he give you? If it's okay for you to share with us, what reasons did he give, even if you share one?
No, there are many things he said, but it may not be necessary for me to say them now because let me remain that one. Let me keep it to myself. The recordings are there. They can listen to the recording and get the original information.
If
yes.
You can access it though.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. This is how we work. So you see, when you are here doing a program, what happens is that you have your guests, and the guests begin calling in lines. They call the line there, then you pick the line, and you answer him back and all this. So that's how we work here, and that's how that man called and was able to record him. But that time I had a technician to help me do the engineering work. My mind was to ask questions, and that's so. Yeah.
Welcome again to the show here on our beautiful television. My name is Mbabazi Anna, and it's such a beautiful morning. One of these days it's over raining, so some people it's quite hard for them to go to work. But for those who happen to go to work every single time, we bless the Lord for you. As much as some of us it's quite hard. So as of today, as you know that here on our channel we bring for you very many distinguished people, very important people in different fields of where they work from. We have artists, we have musicians, we have celebrities of every kind. So today we have a very important person from the journalism sector. Yeah, those ones who want to do broadcasting, printing, of any kind. Do you want to do a magazine, write a book? Do you want to be an author? We have a very important person here who is and who has and who will always be in this sector and always be celebrated. A very important guest in the house. It is such an opportunity to have you, Mr. Henry Baguma.
Thank you very much and welcome. I am Henry Baguma. I am a senior reporter here at UBC. I work with UBC Radio.
Most people, when I told my father that today I'm going to have an opportunity to host Mr. Baguma, he was very excited. Most people of our age really know your name more than your face. So, but our parents and most people, they really know you entirely. So for the younger generation out there who want to know you more, who is Mr. Baguma?
Well, I am a journalist with the UBC Radio, and I started working with Radio Uganda way back in 1980s, 1990s, around that time. I can't remember so much, but I started as a freelance journalist. First of all, I was in the national team. I'm an athlete. I used to run marathon and 10,000 meters. I hold the national universities and colleges record up to now. It has never been broken. 2 hours 30 minutes. No student has ever broken that. I set that record when I was at Kyambogo, Uganda Polytechnical College Kyambogo. So because I was doing sports in schools and I used to come to Radio Uganda, but then it was the Midland section of Radio Uganda, which now UBC anyway. Those days it was Radio Uganda, and I used to come to bring sports news. I started with athletics. I would bring sports, small stories on athletics when we have run somewhere in Soroti, in Gulu, in Mbale, in Kabale. I remember when the national marathon in Kabale, I was the third.
Wow.
So I brought that story. I also remember when I went to national marathon again in cross country in Kasese, so many people collapsed as a result of heat, high temperatures. I brought that story again. So that's how I started my relationship with Radio Uganda.
How was it? Were you getting money? What made you come in wholesale working with Radio Uganda?
Because I was a student in Kyambogo, so Kyambogo and Radio Uganda was within a distance. And those days, by the way, it was easier to move around. There were no borders, and there was only buses, a few taxis. So most of the time we were walking on foot. And like me, who was an athlete, it was easier to walk from Kyambogo to Radio Uganda, bring my story and go home. There was no money those days. They were not giving me money, but once in a while they give some little money but that will be by the way. What inspired me most is when you put your story and it is read at night, you will be very excited, and some people will greet you, they'll be excited about that, they'll ask questions, so that kept inspiring me a little bit. Yeah, and I graduated again from sports journalism, then moved to politics.
So before you were going into politics, how old were you when you joined Radio Uganda?
I was about 40 years, maybe 30, 40 years around that time. I can't recall everything really, but the point that I did my secondary education at Kyambogo College School. Yes, 1970s, and that time I started reporting for the then Radio Uganda. And maybe you need to know briefly that today we have UBC. Yes. UBC came in place in year 2005 after merging Uganda Television and Radio Uganda. And those days, the two were different. Already now it is one.
Yes.
Yeah. And when Radio Uganda and Uganda Television were merged into one, some of us were retained at different levels. You know, there are so many recruitment centers that came in. Others came in direct application. Others were retained here and there because of what they are doing. Others came in because of specialization. So I was retained also on the ground of sports reporting and political reporting.
So you gave up athletics?
I ran, but not so much, because now I am an old man and I can no longer run competitive events, no. But I participated in the marathon. The latest I did was 2015 in Burundi, the Burundi Peace Run. I went to cover the Burundi peace process in Burundi, and so there was a competition launched to embrace the event, and I picked interest. I said, now even me can run. It's okay, you register, and they registered and they competed. So I was the first among the foreign runners. I defeated everybody in Burundi apart from the local runners, but I was the best. And we were two journalists, me and another journalist from Kenya. Yes. So, and the MTN marathon at Kololo I've been running every year. Until the last 2 years we're not having it because I think of COVID.
Yeah, COVID-19.
But previously I participate the 42-kilometer run. I do participate. How
did you come from sports journalist to a journalist who covers most, especially war? Because I've seen you with Konyi, I've seen you into the war. Gaddafi, you know, the news that we see.
Yeah, because now,
come from that?
Yeah, because I was doing sports, particularly athletics. That also exposed me to more areas of interest. And then I started with the reporting when the NRM government came into power. They 1986. They introduced the local council governments. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was called resistance councils at village levels. So in Banda, because I was already associated with Radio Uganda, and there was a position for Secretary for Information. There were 9 positions: chairperson, vice chairperson, Secretary for Youth, Secretary for Security and Defense, then Secretary for Publicity. So I contested for Secretary for Publicity. I was among the pioneers in Nakawa, in Banda. I won and opposed at LC1. Then I went to LC2. I won and opposed. I went to LC3. I went through and opposed, and then up to Kampala City Council. At that time, it was Kampala City Council. Today, it is Kampala Capital City Authority. You know that?
Yes, I
yes.
know.
So,
KCCA.
Yeah, KCCA. Then I entered. I was the Secretary for Publicity, Kampala City Council. That's how I entered.
You entered politics.
Yes, my entry point was because I was working with Radio Uganda, and again I was in sports, and so many sports people were competing in this thing. So that's how I started entering politics. And then from there, now I started reporting, bringing stories of the resistance councils, RCs, meetings, activities, celebrations up the district level.
Wow.
And then I picked interest in the politics, and from there I started also meeting some senior politicians. You remember the people like Honorable Jabiri Bidandi Sali was our member of parliament in Nakawa. Vice President then, Dr. Spesoza Kaziwe. We are on the same committee. She was Secretary for Women Affairs. We had the Captain Babu Francis. So all those type of people who were in those first resistance councils, we started engaging them at different levels, and then I took up politics.
Wow.
Yes.
So when you entered politics, you decided to also start covering politics. How did you go from the politics that you were so centered in, that one of the committees that you were chaired in, to the politics of Konyi, Gaddafi, to the international politics?
Yeah, because now, because I was reporting on local councils and the small village meetings, councils and that, again within those areas, now I started meeting other officers, like the military officers, the security officers, the police would come to attend our meetings and all that. So they picked interest in me, and we became associates. We became members. Then I started visiting for example, when there were issues of security matters, I would be invited to attend and cover for Radio Uganda. So we would start with the police, then eventually I joined the military also sector to start reporting on the army. Remember, the Uganda, the National Resistance Army and the EPDF barracks are in Mbuya.
Yeah.
Mbuya is next to Banda where I was staying. So
you would walk?
Yeah,
still.
I would walk there and engage the commanders. We talk here and there. So that's how we started my journey into the military or the security sector.
Okay.
And you know, I also like traveling. Now, I was also reporting for Weekly Topic then. And I think now that paper died off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Many papers have died off.
Many papers have died off. So in that Weekly Topic, it was purely political magazine, newspaper. And so I picked interest because I was corresponding to them. I was giving them small stories. They would teach me or train me, and you know, and eventually I learned how to report on political reports. Yes, and since then I've not only that, but when I was in Kampala City Council, we traveled extensively. I remember some of the major trips I remember was we went to Zimbabwe. We went to Zimbabwe on an invitation of Zimbabwe government because they were trying to understand how the local governments work and how Kampala had managed to move up. And this was a trip sponsored by World Bank. Wow. So we went around the African countries. We went to Zimbabwe, and when I went there, on that trip, besides being a delegate of Kampala City Council, I was a journalist. So I also reported.
Wow.
Yes, on that meeting in Zimbabwe.
Wow.
And I took interest. We went also to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia on a study tour. So I also reported about that. And that's how I picked interest in covering events. Wow. So from then onwards, they used to put me on their delegation, even if it had nothing to do with our councils, but they would put me because I was.
They know they could get something from
yes,
you.
I was a journalist. So I went to Addis Ababa. And so many other trips I've made. And for information, for example, April 6, 1994, I was in Mulindi in Rwanda. We went with a few journalists, we were about 10 journalists from Uganda, to cover the Rwanda War. Remember the Rwanda War?
Yes.
Yes. So we were in Mulindi, April 6, 1994, when the genocide started. It was around 8 o'clock when the president of Burundi was then killed in a plane crash. We were there in Mulindi, and we drove back to Uganda. I reached at around 2 a.m. in Kavala. It was so cold and all it was, but we maneuvered. I reached Kampala the next day. I was working with Weekly Topic. We printed the story of that genocide of Rwanda. It sold off. The paper, I think here, it took within a day. It was, all copies were sold off because of that report of Rwanda. And remember, those days, there was no internet, mobile phones were not there.
Exactly.
So the main source of information was the radio and those mainstream newspapers. Unlike today, because today, whatever happens within seconds, everybody knows it, yes. But those days, you had to wait for the newspaper to come out. Or you wait for Radio Uganda. Those were the only sources of information. And maybe BBC, yes.
So when you, I'm taking interest in understanding more about the genocide. You know, as the younger generation, we are, okay, I'm not speaking for everyone, but we're not as good as researchers as the veterans of today. When we go back to that genocide bit of it,
yeah,
how were you able to access
the genocide?
place?
Well, I was working with Weekly Topic newspaper based in Katwe. But at the same time, I was also corresponding for Radio Uganda. But my main job was in Katwe, where Weekly Topic, and that paper was managed by Mr. Kintu Musoke. At one time, he was the Prime Minister. There was Mr. Obo, who raced for the East Africa in Nairobi, and is in Nairobi now, and Wafula Ogutu was our editor. He's a politician, I think, from Eastern Uganda. Yeah, those were the top people in that paper. So for me, I used to write for them stories, and then they came there in the evening hours. The RPF, of Rwanda Patriotic Front, that they wanted the journalists to travel with to Rwanda.
Kigali,
Yes, and also interview Paul Kagame. Then he was one of the commanders, lead commanders in that conflict. So they picked us from Katwe. They drove us up to Kabale, from Kabale into Rwanda. I don't remember the time we arrived, but we arrived a little bit late. Then we met Paul Kagame there. He briefed us, he gave us the side story, why they are fighting, how they are fighting, the progress so far, all that type of information. And now, unfortunately, the next day, there were peace talks taking place in Tanzania. And so, as the delegates were returning from Tanzania, the president was killed at Kanombe Airport in Rwanda. So, Paul Kagame, His Excellency Paul Kagame came and told us that now the war has started and we would like to evacuate the foreign journalists. They must go back because we are not able to sustain them here in a military situation.
Oh my God.
And so.
And you are among.
Yes. So I was among them.
So they flew you back?
He directed his people. I've forgotten details there, but at least I remember him telling some officer that to return the journalists back to Uganda, because we cannot sustain them in a what? In a war situation, a war zone. Yeah. And then we were driven from there back to Uganda. It was around the late evening. So we came. At least one thing I remember was we passed one mosque, was on fire.
Jesus.
And I'm told people had entered into the mosque to hide there. Then others had gone maybe for prayers, but they were all burnt. There are so many people died in that mosque. There was also another church around Mulindi. That church was also burnt down completely, and everybody there died. Later on, I was told that the number of dead people could have gone up to 1 million people. So many people died from that day. Yes. And one time, I think as we were entering Uganda, I counted myself 100 dead bodies. Yes. That one I remember. That's brief. I can talk of that. It was a very bad time.
Yeah, it was
and I remember I was a young man, very excited to hear this, to see this, but it was a very, very bad moment.
Yeah, in the same concept, talking about the war zone, we go briefly to the Konyi. What made you go to, as in, I know you're a reporter, but in most cases as journalists, we are threatened and frightened to go to such places. Here we see you from there in Rwanda. We expect you to be a little bit shaken.
That's a brief.
But then you go to Konyi.
Of Rwanda, Konyi, yes. Konyi case also, they used to pick us from here. I was again in Radio Uganda, and I remember the spokesperson of the UPDF, the late Shabani Bantariza, may God rest him in peace, and so many others. They used to pick us to go to cover the war in northern Uganda. Just general coverage really, but we used to go under the military. They would take us to northern Uganda, in Lira, in Gulu, Kitgum, all those places where the war was going on, just to engage the local people, to engage the commanders there, and give the story. That's how we started the Konyi War. It was nothing very, very special. It was because war was on in northern Uganda, so the army used to take us under their defense unit arrangement.
There are very many people, me inclusive, who are starters in this sector of the journalism department, and we really find it very, let's say, very scary. What are the challenges that you face as a journalist in such a place, a war zone?
Well, there are so many but first of all, as a journalist, it's a profession, it's our work. The moment you offer yourself to go to a battlefield or to go to a meeting where
you have signed the death sentence.
Yes, not necessarily death sentence. You have already accepted the conditions. Like when you go to the bar, you have already accepted the conditions of the situation in the bar. If there is people, you get drunk or you are beaten up, whatever happens, those come later. But you don't get scared of going to the bar because you may be beaten. So war, what used to encourage us, the UPDF used to take us, right? And we were safe under the UPDF. They have enough arms, and so...
So you didn't have any way of helping you? So you didn't do chakam chaka, you didn't do...
No, because we are not fighters, we are not going to fight, we are not soldiers. Ours is to go and see and hear and talk and ask questions, then bring the answers on air. You see, we are not going to northern Uganda for fighting, but to tell the story of what's happening on the ground. And therefore, there wouldn't be any fear. There wouldn't be any fear. By the way, even at your own home, you don't know what happens when you close your house. Yeah? The strength of an enemy, they can break into the house anytime. But the moment you begin fearing even that someone could break into your house anytime, they not even sleep.
Yeah, you don't.
You see?
I've experienced it.
Yes. Now, but also the advantage of war stories that normally you are the very few. Not many want to go to war situations. Yeah. And now you end up very few of you, and therefore your story becomes a top story, a marketing story, selling story, and everybody wants to hear what your story is. Even as you are writing, people asking questions, that inspired me very much. Because, madam, let me tell you one thing. You can go to a story, you get a story where it's a normal story. When you report a newsroom, say, I have this story, white, everybody's telling you, hold on. But when you are just coming from a battlefield, say, I've just, before you even tell them you have come, they're asking you questions. Wow. You see? And so you're given priority. Your story is the #1 story, so everybody's waiting for you. That inspires. In journalism, that inspires you much. Yeah? And that's one of the reasons why I thought, therefore, that sector of military and security is more marketing than, for example, politics. I mean, by the time you return back to the newsroom, everybody has the story. They are now even telling you, what news do you have? That's no story. That one we already know. Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, but battlefield stories are very rare. Yeah.
So did you get an opportunity? I wouldn't call it, okay, an opportunity to speak or to interview Joseph Kony?
Yes, I did, but not face to face. First of all, the nearest time I came to Joseph Kony was around Kitgum. When you remember with the late Aronda, we were there again. Joseph Kony was within that area. They raided the primary school and grabbed some girls. You see, they took them. I don't know the details, but at least I remember that some girls were grabbed from a primary school in Kitgum, and then the fighting started. I could hear bombs were in our room sleeping. Then we had gunshots. Then I asked the soldier what's happening. He said, no, NRA have raided the school and have grabbed some children here. So we are going to rescue these children. And the fighting started from there onwards. But fortunately enough, the children were rescued, all of them. And Kony escaped. Kony was one in the group and his team. They all ran and abandoned the children within those areas. And they remember that story, brought it a story, and it was on air. Then General Ronda told us then that Joseph Kony was within. They had not known that he was within, but they only got information later that he's the one who commanded the raid into that primary school. And they grabbed the children, but then they were overpowered by the UPDF forces. And that was another story I got, and I came back and put the story. It was a sailing story. I mean, there are so many stories of Joseph Kony. Then there was again when they grabbed one of the journalists who were coming from Kitgum, and they attacked, they mounted the roadblock and grabbed one of the journalists who were with.
You were together?
No, we were behind. Oh. The people were in front. They took a group of people, including the journalist himself. He came later. And I've never interacted with him to tell us his story, but he was grabbed and taken away.
What were you feeling at that moment? Did you pray your last prayer?
No, but for me, we were with the army contingent, UPDF, so we were safe and we were enjoying it.
I mean,
we were seeing these things happening, we're hearing, so...
Jesus.
Then, I mean, there are so many stories. I wouldn't like to go into details of these things, but talk about the media and the war, it is terrible. And in Congo, I had some issues. I was arrested one time in Congo.
The recent Congo, or?
No, yes, the previous Congo, not the current Congo now.
Why did they do that?
There was some fighting, and then I went there. The problem is I went without protection. I went as an individual alone. I just crossed there to engage the people.
You didn't have any ID to show you that you're from the UBC?
Those people, they don't. You see, Congo is really a wilderness. Oh. Have you been there?
No.
Yes. The government, Congo is a completely. I don't know. I don't even know how to. I don't know how to describe it. It's an open space. So I just crossed there. I bought a border man. Did not tell me the detail. He just dropped me at the border. Then he said, "Can I proceed?" I said, "You can move in." Then I went there, entered there, and started interviewing people with my recorder. Little did I know that those people were monitoring. They thought I was a security person. That's how I was grabbed. But later on, there were talks here and there, and there was a reason. I don't want to go into details of that, but since I came back alive, but that moment, up to now, I think I came near death. Yes.
You survived it.
Yes, I survived.
Oh my God.
I came back, and unfortunately, they took my recorder and deleted all the information, so I could not put it out, and that is it. They returned my recorder, but they took my money, took everything I had, apart from the identity card and my recorder, which was empty. Everything else they took.
It's amazing.
And they were asking me to call home, call people, but
using what?
I didn't have your time, and that's the way we did, because I think they wanted the ransom to tell them, we have your money here, pay so much. This is what I was later told. This is what they've been doing. And actually, these people have been grabbing Ugandans so much. The other time also they grabbed the NTV man. You remember?
Up to today? Yeah.
In Kisoro around there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it there up to today?
Yes. This grabbing, they do it. Once you cross the border, then your local country has no more touch with you. So it is very risky for them. If you want to go, some of these things are risky.
My goodness.
So those were a few challenges.
Wow, that's very empowering for young journalists out there who would want to be a journalist, specifically for the war zone. You want to go to Ethiopia, Somalia. You want to go not Ethiopia, Somalia. You want to go to Somalia. You want to go to Afghanistan.
Somalia. I have been Somalia, I think 15 times, different times. The first time I was in Somalia, we went with the general, we went with the army, but then it was Peter Weru commanding. You know Peter Weru?
Yes.
Another time I remember Dick Loom, and then this military officer who died recently. But equally Somalia is equal as bad. Because Somalia, the first time I went to Somalia, at the airport, as we were coming out of the airport, we were hearing gunshots. Jesus. Yes, gunshots, heavy gunshots and bombs going on. Then I asked the commander, what is happening? He said, no, those people are welcoming us now. That's what he told me, that these are Al-Shabaab and other forces. Here, that's what they do. Then they say, we safe? Say, yes, as long as you follow the procedures, they will not attack you, they will not kill you. Yes, but any strange person, they see a strange person, they shoot in the air, shot, we are here, welcome. So welcoming you is by shooting. Yes, the gunshots. At the airport alone, actually it is Peter who told me that very point in Somalia. They say, don't fear, we are in charge, we are monitoring the situation. Those are small boys just playing around with the gun. They are shooting here and there. They can't harm us at all. We have enough security. So they advise you, number one, there's what we call SOPs. By the way, it's SOPs. Recently, people know of COVID-19. No, operational standing procedures is one measure within the security. They give you operational standing procedure before you proceed to any assignment. They tell you the do's and don'ts. So in Somalia, they tell us, number one, don't eat anything in Somalia. You don't buy anything on the streets.
So you come with your food?
They, even not, if food is not allowed.
Oh, well, how do you survive?
They give you the food. The people who have taken you are in charge with you. They tell us, don't buy on anything on the road, on the streets. Don't eat anything because you never know. It can be poison. They are applying to poison you people. You see, like Kampala, people buy anything on the street and eat. Yes. In Somalia, that's not. At that time, at least the days we went there, we were warned, don't eat anything that has not been given to you by your in charge. Food is served in canteen, specialized canteens and restaurants which are known and guarded. But buying from the streets is prohibited. In fact, if any commander sees you buy anything and eat, they will just put you in the next plane back to Kampala because you're going to cause trouble to the forces. Yes? Number two, if you are so bad off you have to eat at all, then it must only be bottled food, like milk, like sugar, no, soda, which is bottled. And you open it yourself and prove that it is sealed. Yes. So don't buy anything. Two, movements are limited. There's nothing like an evening walk. All movements are according to the plan. They take you to a place, sit in a place. After that, disembark back to your home of residence. Talking is also limited. Not everything is supposed to be discussed because you never know whom you are talking to, and you never know the intention. Now, I came also to understand. Yes, 8 o'clock is 8 o'clock, and you must be within your area. If you are to leave at all, you must leave a message to the next person. If you are going out for private call, this short call, these things, someone else must know you have gone for this.
Are these only for the foreigners or the entire country?
And I don't know, but at least for us, the media. These were SOPs for the journalists. I don't know what's general entire everybody, but at least for us, wherever we go to Somalia, we used to go to Somalia, we're always under restrictive arrangements. Don't just move around. If we put you in a hotel, then to find you not in a hotel, that will be the end. You have to go back to Uganda.
Jesus.
Yes. So SOPs are very, very key in this operation. That also makes, and me, I used to have problem with the body armor. You know this body armor? Yes.
Bulletproof what?
Yes, uniform? Bulletproof. And it is heavy. Somalia is temperatures so high. So I put it on, remove it, and so I said, no, but put it back. If you are not ready to comply, yes, we take you back to your room until the day's end. So if you are going to the mission, you put on that body armor. It must be 24 hours.
With your camera?
Yes, everything must be there. There's nothing like removing it. Because they will tell us anytime you are subject to shooting down. Yes. So body armor is a must. You can imagine. Water. You have to carry water. You are given by the commanders, you must carry your own water. Because I told you, you don't take anything from anybody. They give you what you call ratio or something like that. Each of us, as we are moving in the morning, we are given that, the food, the what, everybody carries on what? Package. Keep it, don't eat immediately. My goodness. Because if you eat now, then when we reach the mission center, you have no food. Then you're going to become a beggar from your friends or you're going to buy. So they give you ratio for breakfast, for lunch, this is your meal. Now let's go.
So Mr. Baguma, as we finish the segment of the war zone as a reporter or a journalist, for a student out there who is pursuing journalism or any person starting their career in this system, what one word or advice, or two, they can be three, that you would give to them so that they can be successful in this like you have?
Procedures, SOPs, observe rules all the time. Two, security is you. Are you secure in whatever you're doing? If they have told you don't move from this point, and you move away, naturally you may have issues. And for us, as journalism, actually, it's important to have contacts all the time. You must cram numbers that could save you any moment in case of a serious emergency. For example, you can, yes, they can grab your phone and all this. You must have some numbers at least in your head here and there. You must understand, and we are moving, you must also understand the route map, the mapping.
You have to know.
Twice I got lost in some place and I couldn't remember. Since that time, for me, when I'm moving, I know, I mark trees, I mark roads, I mark a few things. It is very important to mark situations, especially when you are moving outside your normal areas.
You got lost?
Yes.
Where?
I got lost, I don't remember, in Tunisia.
Okay.
I got lost and moved around and round and round and round, and eventually I got my area, but I know now I'm dead.
It's a very
yes, I know now I'm dead. By the way, even now, today, if you go to Kololo, if they drove you to Kololo and drop you there, and then they say, go back to UBC, you may not be able to reach UBC. If I'm not,
Kololo, Malcolm X,
yes,
Avenue.
if I'm not marked the.
But it's very important to mark, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
So marking now for me, it's in my head wherever I'm going. Even when I'm entering a building, some of these high skyscraper buildings, when you are entering a building, you must mark numbers. So that when you are returning back, you remember. I remember this one, I remember this one. But if you are simply moving, you can get lost. Can you imagine, as a journalist, it's very terrible.
You're lost.
Yes. Now, also communication. As a journalist, we must know what to talk and when to talk.
Sure.
Yeah, because you can be mistaken to be a soldier. For example, if you are covering politics, there is a politics. You limit your comments. You could injure one side. You see? Every comment you make affects some people. You are not a politician, you are a journalist. There is a difference. So sometimes it's better to keep quiet. You have one mouth, 2 ears. You rather use your ears and use the mouth once. Speak very little.
These days we have journalists who are using their Twitter handles to really come out and show their sides, like they are of this side or this side. What do you have to say?
That's all right. That's their freedom. But you must also see how much trouble they are facing. Many journalists are having a lot of challenges and problems because of that type of information. How much information do you release? You receive much, 2 years. Then if you over-release information, you are likely to run into some trouble.
Talking about freedom, as journalists, we are celebrating World Press Freedom Day. So, is it true that we have freedom as journalists? Let's speak for Uganda as a country.
Yes, I think so. I don't know what freedom means. What
is freedom to you?
What does freedom mean?
Freedom of speech, I can say anything.
Yes, then
I can go anywhere, I can access resources. Do we access these things?
Yes, people are talking and people are free to talk. There is freedom. The point is, whose freedom? How would you relate your freedom with other freedoms? Because our freedom is never for free. It has challenges.
So it's not free.
If you have freedom to talk also empowers you to attack me, then there is a challenge there. It becomes a legal matter and other things. But definitely, yes, people are talking, people are free. People are buying newspapers are writing everything. But also, some freedom sometimes are curtailed by the laws. You are not allowed to talk beyond my interest. Isn't it?
Should we say that's freedom?
Yes.
When I'm not allowed?
You are not allowed. What about me, with whom you are attacking? So this freedom is questioned by, I don't know, I've never understood exactly what it is all about. I don't understand it because I've seen many people run into trouble because of talking.
And that's our job. We talk for a living.
It is our job to talk.
Yeah.
We survive on talking,
yes.
But it has a lot of implications. By the way, problem with the media is not only the government and the police as we are taking it. We also have issues in the community. For example, if you write a story about a Muruka chief and you live in that village, how much are you going to live with him in the same village? Eh? And you have seen, for example, lawyers. Eh? They have protection, lead cars and all this and all this, but journalists are not.
Yeah.
Now the lawyers, judiciary is highly protected, isn't it?
Very.
Escort and all this. But I saw the journalists also are doing the same work. You are the people who report these things that eventually become issues of legal matter. So the journalists themselves, their protection is how they observe SOPs. For us, we have no army, we have no police.
So at the end
Yes,
of
we are doing the same work.
So at the end of the day, shall we really meet the standard of the society, what they expect from us, if we are limited to that point?
You don't have to be careful on how you are living and the people you are living. For example, if I may say this, one time I was told, when you are covered, in fact, when this one were in Congo, in DRC Congo there, then I saw a BBC man asking for, he's calling back to London that he wants to fly to Nairobi. Then I said, why? Then later on he told me, you see here, I can't send this story because we are in the battlefield, we have no exit route, we are here in Congo only through air, and there are no roads. Now, if I send this story right now, and it is aired in London, and then these very people now locate where we are. I learned that.
Wow. Conscious.
The man had to go to Nairobi and send the story later. And at night, of course, we had our reporter, so-and-so, is in Nairobi, and he has the following information. And he was reporting that's what was happening on the ground. They had just bombed the airport. They had just bombed the airport, killing some people there. So the man decided not to use, and he told us, for you Ghana, for you, okay, because you have to go drive back. You know, remember that those days we didn't have enough system. So we go to Congo and come back. Even if
internet.
1 week, that's the story, we wait until 1 week.
Wow.
But the BBC had the facilities. But he told me, I can't send the story until we return back to where?
To Nairobi.
Either to Uganda or to Nairobi. So we will not report on site. But I've seen here reporters reporting a fight, a conflict, or a demonstration directly amidst the demonstrators.
Yes.
And our time is interviewing the people, and the people are blaming the police. When the police is also seeing you there, you can imagine how much danger. A journalist is telling us on radio or television that what I'm seeing here is bad. You can see the policeman is beating the people, he's tear gassing, these people are doing not good. Now, that's a true story. But how is his life? I would imagine the reporter there. You see?
But I believe that reporter is equivalent to you, who was going to Rwanda for the genocide, then Konyi. Then
yes, but I'm not blaming the person guarding me. But you have seen stories where a reporter is blaming the police for beating the people, and the policeman who've just been beating the person is also there with that reporter. I just imagine the defense is defenseless almost. Now these are the dangers. That's how some of our journalists have ended up being injured, having been beaten. Of course, some get rounded up, you know. So you need to know which side are you at that particular time, which side is stronger, and how is your safety. The most important thing is how is your safety. You rather don't use the story and come and say, I couldn't send a story because of the situation on the ground. I don't think it will be dismissed. Because what happens if you die? No story is bigger than you. But if you think you must send the story by all means, and you have to film those people beating the people, and they are seeing you filming them, naturally they will grab you. Either they take your camera, if they favor you, they just take the camera, or remove the card and let you go. If they favor you, that is. The other way around is they would injure you. And if they are government forces, they would find a way of arresting you to say you are injuring our security operation. Then you appear in court. What those things happen? Yes. If you are, even when you are covering football, KCC versus Express, and there's confusion and commotion, and you are in a KCC T-shirt, Express people are complaining, and you are within them there, and you must know which side you belong to.
There is a statement that you said when we were speaking, and you said that every time you came back to the studio, every time you came back home from the battlefield, everyone was excited because your story was the top story, so questions would always pop up.
Yes.
That is the exact same feeling this journalist has when they are going out to the field to capture such commotions. So if there is no journalist to go out to catch that, do you think we still have news?
Now, who gains if you are killed?
So do we still have news?
Eh?
By tomorrow, it's
No, but there's alternative.
Do you know we have
You
internet?
you leave the scene, come and describe.
You know we have internet. It's a very big threat to us as journalists. By the time you get home, it's already circulating.
Why should you die to be the first to send the story, and then you end up being the last? And or times we end up never sending the story because you want to be the first to send the story. Okay. Eh? And when you die, by the way, do you know how many people are injuring? Number one is your institution. Eh? If you die, they lose you out. It was not the intention that you die or dismiss you. Number two is yourself. Then number three is your family. I mean, the number of people who lose out of your ignorance. Eh? And many. Eh? A reason why some people should even punish you for not complying. You know, whenever we go to this place, your children say, hey, no, don't go. They are not ready to let you go. Now, amidst that, then you go and mess up yourself and you die. They say, Twamugamba, Nagana. Have you heard those things? Twamugamba, Nagana, Nangi, and it's not your correct. Katona, what they are already annoyed with you. Because you didn't comply, you refused everybody, and then you went, and then your newsroom also will lose you anyway.
Yeah, true.
Eh? Now, instead of putting your story, now they'll be reporting that you are dead.
So
that will be a sad moment.
Concluding the issue of freedom, press freedom, do you think that this concept of freedom of the press exists outside Uganda? Because I've seen people like, institutions like CNN, like BBC, really going for their leaders. We saw Trump being dragged if I can use the word dragged by CBS every now and then, and he will always complain about that media. Do you think it exists?
Yeah, I told you that freedom itself is debatable. It's a debatable matter, definitely. That's why I can conclude about it. There's no total freedom. No way. Freedom is not there. For example, you are freedom to breathe in and out, isn't it? But when you die, you no longer breathe. Freedom to eat, you're subject to having money. Eh? Freedom to talk is subject to the environment. There are people who will not allow you to talk. We now vow fruma. But now my freedom to talk. Say no. You outside. So freedom is subjective really. It has many limitations. In other words, there's no total freedom in any circumstance.
That's the conclusion. No total freedom.
No freedom. Total freedom. No.
Okay. So thank you so much for giving us your time. As we conclude this show, what is that challenge? We are concluding with these very important notes. The challenge that you have faced as a journalist, because you have been in this sector for quite a long time. What is that challenge that, the challenges, let me say plural, that you have faced, and up to now you're still having scars?
Yeah, the challenge is that journalism really is a thankless job.
Wow.
Thankless job. The media do a lot of work, but the people who the beneficiaries of the journalist gain much more than the journalist. You see, you promote people who are not known at all. You write about them, promote them, talk to them. They get known, they become powerful. Eventually, they're elected to politics. They become chairman, they become president, they become chairpersons. But for you, remain a promoter. You see, you never raise up. When there's a show, music show coming up, you talk about it, promote it, and all this. The manager of the show gets up to millions of shillings, and you're
just a ladder.
Yes, you are just a ladder, and I think that's the challenge of the media. So it's a thankless job, and if you want money and you want to become rich and build houses and all this, you better drop from journalism. It's not an area you should come to really. No. It's a thankless job.
Jesus.
People remember just when they die, when they pass on. You remember how much the whole country cried for the late Bale Francis. But the man was almost fighting to get money for treatment in Malago Hospital. But when he passed on, everybody was up. Oh, Bambi. I feel very sad with such moments. Eh? So journalists, They are very small as long as they are working. But the moment the person, everybody comes up to think you are, they should have done better.
Wow.
So that's the problem with journalism. It's not a very inspiring job, really. It's a thankless job.
Wow. So I should quit? What
No.
can you give me that can keep me here?
There are things everybody is inspired differently. Don't want to say you come journalism or stay there, but with experience you learn, and there are experiences that inspires you. I want you to take up your own experience, then you decide whether to stay there or to quit. You see?
But there should be something that you have experienced as a journalist that you feel proud of.
I feel proud of being known. I wouldn't talk now if I was not a journalist. How many people have access to discussing this topic? How many want to talk? But I was selected on ground of being a journalist, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's a pride. You have not gone down to pick anybody to come and talk. But you picked on Henry BAGUM. You see, that's pride. But is it enough? That's the question.
Wow.
Are we eating on pride? Are we surviving on pride?
Wow. That's a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a question for you. I hope we have not disappointed some students who want to be journalists or people who are starting up in this sector to be journalists. I hope we have not disappointed
Yeah, that's
them.
the role of journalism. You disappoint and appoint and whatever you make a comment, people are free to pick from what you have said and take it according to their line of interest. No, naturally, people either be disappointed or be happy. Yes, there's no neutral ground for information. Whatever information you give up, people are either excited, happy, or disappointed with you. Even this discussion, there are those who are disappointed already. Then those who are excited, they want to hear more.
Exactly.
Yes, so that's the world.
That's the world for you. Thank you so much, Mr. BAGUM, for the time you've
Welcome.
given us. It's really an opportunity to have such veterans speaking to us. And as for me, it's such an opportunity. I hope you have learned something. Today we have come for you who wants to be a journalist. So if you want to learn more, you can give us questions in your comments and we can reach out to Mr. BAGUM and we can get you the answers. Baba's Anna to you. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
The microphone. The microphone.